Good morning. This is Kent, the Cali State Job Coach, coming at you from Mexico, Lake Chapala, Mexico specifically. I recently retired here a year or so ago. If anybody's interested in knowing how you can retire after only 6 years with the state of California, I covered that in my why video. Anyway, this is the 9th video in this series. I talk about why you'd want to get a job with the state of California in one of my videos. I talk about creating your Cal Careers account. I talk about searching for jobs, applying for jobs, taking the exams that apply to the specific jobs, creating a statement of qualifications, which is often a requirement for submitting your application, and they even go so far as to say it acts as the first level interview in the process. So all that said, I know these videos work. I know they're working and helping people. I know people who've completed all these steps and they've submitted their applications, they've gotten invited to interviews, they've done well in the interviews and gotten job offers and accepted positions with the state of California. So I know they work, but that said, I keep getting a recurring question about doing a video on how to best prepare for the interviews. And obviously that's an important thing to know. Some people need a little bit of help with that. And so that's why I'm doing this video. Before I get started on those details though, I want to just present my credentials. I've personally done between 50 and 100 interviews, probably more, but I'm trying to be conservative, both on the outside in the corporate world and at the state of California. I've been on interview panels where there's 3-4 people on the panel, and I've done interviews individually too. I've been the hiring manager, and I've had the final say on the post-interview hiring decision, including veto power when the results of some interviews have been contrary to what I thought they should be. I've been the recruiting manager or leader with overall responsibilities for the whole thing, from recruiting to setting up the interviews to coaching team leaders and managers through making offers and hiring and such. In my humble opinion, the interview is probably the most important step of all that, because you can do all those other things adequately or even well or even exceptionally. But if you mess up on the interview, the chances are you're not going to get a job offer. That's just the bottom line. So to do well in the interview, it's helpful to know a few details. And so the state of California, in my experience, every single interview was done with what we call a panel style. And that means I've seen as little as 2, but usually there's 3 and even more often 4 people. No, probably more often 3, but even sometimes 4 people, interviewers on the interview panel. These interviews are very structured. They're not free form like some of the ones I've participated with out in the corporate world. All the questions that are going to be asked are already known by the interviewers, the people asking the questions. And usually the interviewers go around in a round robin style, somebody starting with the first question, and then the next person doing the second question, the next person doing the third, the next person doing the fourth. Let's say there's 4 people on the panel, coming back to the first person who asked the first question, going to question 5, and so on and so forth, 6, 7, 8. I think you get the idea. But they go around, so every interviewer gets a chance to ask questions, maybe present a different style of the way they speak and talk and interact. And that's probably good for the interviewee. All the questions, like I said, are already known before the interview takes place, and they're based on the hiring manager generally is the person who creates the questions, the question deck, if you will. And those questions are based on, it's not a secret, okay? The questions are based on the duty statement for the position. They're based on if a statement of qualifications was required for the application. They may base some of the questions off that. They may base some of the questions off of the minimum requirements, or the MQs, they call them, the minimum qualifications. The desirable qualifications, getting down to probably the next and final level, and they may call the desired qualifications special qualifications, but it's a synonym, they mean the same thing. So again, based off the duty statement number 1, the statement of qualifications if there was one required, the MQs, the minimum qualifications, and the desirable or special qualifications, in that order. Okay, and they're weighted like that too, by the way. So each question is weighted or graded, usually on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the minimum. I guess you could get a 0, so from 0 to 5, and 5 being the best answer, the fully answered. And they talked about every key point that was in the question. And then each of those grades, say 5, for let's say 8 questions is added up. If the person, the interviewee, aced the interview and they got a 5 on all those 8 questions, obviously it's a 40 overall score, 5 times 8. I'm just pointing this out in detail, so I'm trying to answer every single question that I might anticipate could be asked. So they're all graded, a total assigned for the interview. At the end of, let's say, a typical job may get 50 different applications, some a lot more than that, to be honest with you. And the person reviewing all the applications went through all those 50 and decided that there were 10 people who were really, really highly qualified, and they wanted to interview all 10 people. Well, at the end of these interviews, where each question is graded and the total of all the questions is cumulative, added up, in my experience, they'll take the top 3 or 4 people. They'll decide who those top 3 or 4 people are based on the numbers. It's quantitatively calculated, and it's made that way so that it's as quantitative as possible, and it takes out the emotion and well, I just like this person better thing, because the state tries to hire people based on quantitative reasons, not emotional reasons, in my humble opinion. And that's my experience, and I was a hiring manager with the state. But they'll take the top 3 people will be picked, and then the interview panel may have a second meeting to talk over those again with the hiring manager. They may decide to go ahead and make an offer to the top. Well, they'll run MQs, they'll ask HR to make sure that all the people are fully qualified before they make an offer. But they may decide to make an offer based off of that. They may decide to have a second level interview. And then the same process will happen again. And the same sort of preparation should happen again too, but I'm going to get to that. So the goal is to make the interview as quantitative as possible. The best way to prep for these interviews, if you're the interviewee, is to, again, it's not magic, and it's why I already talked about it. You need to review the duty statement for that advertised position. You need to review the statement of qualification requirements and what your response was, because must have been a pretty good response if you're being invited for an interview. You need to review the minimum qualifications, the desirable qualifications, again in that order, the duty statement being the most important, because that's what the job is, the SOQ. That's what the hiring manager thought maybe needed some more fleshing out, so they asked for an SOQ, et cetera, et cetera. And so review those things, and then more importantly, rehearse scenario-based questions and answers. And I talk about the STAR format, the situation, the task, the actions or the activities, and the results. You need to rehearse possible questions that might be asked about those duty statement tasks, or the SOQ questions, or the minimum requirements, or the desirable qualifications. Again, in that order, starting with the duty statement and the SOQ being the very most important. Come up in your own mind what some questions might be asked about those things, those tasks, those duties, and then come up with, in your own mind, a response using the situation, the task, the action, and most importantly, the results. If you go through the duty statement, the SOQ, the MQs, and the desired qualifications, and you come up with the questions that might be asked are very evident. And if you read these things, the questions are very evident. You come up with really good responses using that star-based format. That's the best way to prepare for the interview, because 9 times out of 10, more than that even, those are going to be the type of scenarios or questions that you're going to be asked to address. And if you've gone through that in your mind a lot of times, you should be really, really ready for the interview. So all interviews are a little bit stressful. I'm not going to minimize that. I had about 35 years work experience. I got hired on at the age of 55. Again, the state of California doesn't discriminate based on age or sex or all these other protected statuses. So I had a lot of experience, so that helped, I'm sure, but also the fact that I used this preparation method absolutely helped, right? So if you've prepped as best you can, you should have some level of comfort and some confidence level, really, going into the interview, and that gets noticed when you're doing the interview. Now that there may be a little bit of qualitative assessment done during the interview. It's just human nature. You can make it as quantitative as you want, but still people will see that you're comfortable and that you're confident in your responses. So if you do this, that's going to make, I submit, it could make a difference for you. So prepping in this way is a proven method. Now I'm going to just use my own experience. I saw this over and over again with other people who were getting interviewed and offered and hired and stuff. But in my own experience, I talk about in other videos, I did about 40 applications with the state to get 4 or 5 interviews. That was my ratio, 10 to 1 about. But I've heard that from other similar people who are trying to get jobs with the state. But when I actually went on those 4 or 5 interviews that I got out of all those applications, I received 2 job offers. So that's a 40 or 50% success rate, just doing the math on that. That's pretty darn good. And I submit to you, that wasn't because I'm special. I did have experience in the jobs, and that's why I applied for them. But it's also because I used this method of prepping, and I was never surprised. Okay, I never got any questions that I wasn't at least mostly prepared for. And sometimes you have to think on your feet a little bit. That's part of the interview too. They want to see, can you think on your feet a little bit? But there's a whole lot less of that if you've prepped the way that I'm suggesting or recommending that you prep. So some final notes to try and wrap this up. You want to get to the interview 10 or 15 minutes early. Don't be running in 1 minute ahead of time. Okay, just people notice that. Okay, you want to dress professionally. Some of these are obvious. I try to get there, and the reason why I'm there 10 or 15 minutes early is so I can just relax, right? I don't want to be out of breath, looking like I'm harried and just ran in from the parking lot. So I just sit there and relax for 10 or 15 minutes. I literally take deep breaths. And I also review my responses to this question. Okay, this question is going to be on 99.9%, I submit, of the interviews. This question right here. So if you haven't been listening real closely so far, and I hope you have, but you want to listen to this one, okay? 99.9% of the time, people are the panel, usually it's the first question, it might be the last, but usually it's the very first question, and this kind of sets the tone for the rest of the interview, okay? So here's the question. Tell us why you think your training, education, skills, and experience makes you the most qualified person for this job, okay? If you haven't practiced all the other things like you practiced the duty statement stuff and the SOQ stuff, hopefully the minimum qualifications, but you didn't really make it to the desirable qualifications. Okay, you have to prioritize your time and effort on these things. But you better prepare for that question, right? I'm going to say it again. Tell us why you think your training, education, skills, and experience makes you the most qualified person for this job. If you have a really good answer for that question, the rest of the interview is going to be easy. It's going to be downhill. Trust me. And it will set you apart from the other folks who maybe haven't prepped for that question, okay? So if you've prepped for everything and you've done everything that I'm suggesting here, you're going to do great. There's not a doubt in my mind. If you need some one-on-one coaching on how to do this, I'd be happy to assist. Send me an email or a message. Send me a direct message or a DM me if you want. The last couple of things. One, I want you to subscribe to my channel and click on the little bell so you get notification of subsequent videos that'll be coming out, maybe on some other holes in this process that some people are butting up against, like this, how to prep for the interview thing. I thought I had the whole process covered from A to Z, but obviously this one was a hole in that process, and so I'm doing it. And I'm sure there'll be a couple other ones. Anyway, I hope this video has been informational and educational and helpful for you. Good luck on knocking your interviews out of the park. I know you will if you follow this process. And good luck on getting a job offer and a job with the state of California. It's the day before Christmas Eve, 2022, and I wish everybody a happy and safe holiday. And this is Cali State Job Coach Kent, over and out.